Here in this province of Pastaza, we have the greatest cultural diversity in Ecuador. There are 7 different ethnic groups, double any other province in Ecuador. Would you like me to name them?
Sure.
Sure.
The most numerous people are the Quichua people. They're the ex-slaves of the Spanish. Quichua is not a language from Ecuador. It's a language from Peru. It's the language of the Inca Empire. The Incas expanded into the Andes of Ecuador only 60 years before the Spanish arrived. 30 years after founding Quito, the Spanish brought thousands of slaves here in the Amazon looking for gold, looking for cinnamon. All the new slaves
You're talking
forced to
slaves
speak
from
Quechua.
Africa? Slaves
No,
from where? Slaves?
Quechua slaves.
Quito, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, they just grabbed them. Okay.
yeah, right.
From
The-
Peru? Like they got them from Peru and brought them here?
Well, they got them from Quito.
Oh, they got them
Yeah,
from Quito.
right. And yeah, the Spanish were not in some expedition of cultural discovery. They just wanted to ransack anything worth ransacking and enslave everybody and make more money. And yeah, and so that's why so many people speak Quechua now. The Incas wanted to get Amazonian lands to have access to different products, but never could because of the warlike people, like the Shuar and the Waorani, who we'll be explaining about. And so it was only with the Spanish coming that Quechua speakers were brought, right? So that's the one group. Another group are the Waorani. They're the most recently contacted. They only have peaceful contact with outsiders starting in about 1960. Very recent. It's through the work of an evangelical missionary from the United States named Rachel Saint. Sometime when you have a moment, type into YouTube, Rachel Saint, This Is Your Life. They did a TV program in Hollywood about her. In the program, you can also see Dayuma, a Waorani girl who was captured in the forest by slaves of a Spaniard, dragged to the ranch. Rachel Saint learned about that and went to learn the language with her. Later, the two of them went out looking for all of the different Waorani groups, taking the word of God. They were accepted by all the groups that have contact now. There are other Waorani out there who never accepted contact. They still live exactly as we're going to explain, right? And you can read in Spanish about them if you go to our Parque Omaire Facebook page and scroll down a little bit. There's a really good report, and you can hear their language because there's some videos of contacted Waorani women talking about their sightings of the non-contacted Waorani who are still out there, right?
Do you know
Yes.
about Jim Elliott, the missionary? Is that,
Yeah,
was that
it's
the same group?
it's the
of
same
people?
group.
It's
Yeah,
the same group. Okay, that's
same
what I was
group.
wondering.
I think, I can't remember exactly. I think he was somehow a relative or maybe just friends with Rachel Saint.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
Interesting.
yeah, but Nate Saint, who also died, Jim Elliott also died, right?
Yes, they've murdered him.
Right. It was 5. And it was a very interesting thing because Rachel Saint was already learning the language, and the 5 men decided to rush in and try and make contact, and they didn't even tell her because she would have insisted on going. And the only explanation of that, because it would have been logical, let's wait till Rachel learns the language and then going in all together. The only explanation is that they were all based here in Shell, just on the road towards Baños, and that's also where the Gringo oil people were.
Ah.
Right, and the only explanation is that the Gringo oil people must have told the Gringo missionaries, if you're going to do something with the Waorani, you better hurry up, because there's just plans to wipe them all out. This was the 1950s. It was a military dictatorship, and I'm sure that they didn't consider the Waorani to be citizens with rights, right? And they knew there was all this oil, but it was very risky. You go out in the forest, the Waorani could kill you. And there was no way to cut a deal with them. No one knew their language. No one had any contact with them. And so it's logical. They could have had a plan to just wipe them all out. Right? It doesn't show up on any books, but doesn't mean that there was not that plan. There's a subgroup here in Pastaza, the Shuar, Achuar, and Shibiar. They come from the same root. They speak almost the same language. They were always called jibaros. You've never heard that word. It's an old word in Spanish that means people from the countryside with no culture. Right? All the words the Spanish used to refer to the different indigenous groups were insults, without exception. Right? And they called them that due to the frustration of not being able to conquer them. They were never conquered, and we can explain more about them later. There are two more groups, the Sapara and the Andoas. They were enslaved over 100 years ago when the car was invented. Do you know what one has to do with the other? Rubber. Up until then, people knew what rubber was, and it was kind of funny, but it wasn't very important. But with the invention of the car, they needed tons of rubber to make the tires, and the rubber tree is only native to here in the Amazon. So the white slave drivers and the Quechua-speaking slaves wanted to find every single rubber tree. They enslaved a lot more people in the process.
Do you have any rubber trees here?
I don't think so. At least not right on the main trail. I want to plant one.
I have no idea what a rubber tree
Yeah.
looks like. So.
And this is an Achuar house. It's Achuar architecture. But first, we're going to talk about the Waorani. Right? Waorani houses don't last very long. They're also very dark inside. Right? We'll get to that. Waorani here in Ecuador were always considered savages by everyone else because no one could talk to them. They have a totally different language. To our ears, it sounds like right? And it's a totally unique language. Almost any language we can name belongs to a linguistic family, not their language. It's totally isolated. And also no one could talk to them because any intruder was quickly killed with these palmwood spears. It's the same palmwood as this post. Very hard, can be sharpened to a razor edge. This one has not been sharpened today for your safety.
Thank you.
The Waorani also sharpened this back end because there might be people sneaking up from behind. Goes both directions. When they go to war, each man doesn't just carry one spear, he carries 12 or 15 spears. It's very heavy. Thank you. This is because one gets lost over there, another over here. When they kill the enemy, they leave the spear in the body. It's now impregnated with that person's bad energies, also their diseases, right? And the proper spear for warfare is a little bit different. It has points going backwards like a harpoon. It goes in, it doesn't come out, right? So I'm going to put this away before anything happens. There's a third reason that everyone thought they were savages. They didn't wear any clothing. And the truth is that it's more practical to live in the rainforest naked because it's not cold during the day. You're in the shade of the trees. It rains a lot. 15 minutes after the rain stops, the naked Waorani is dry while we're still wet. Right? And when the missionaries first had contact with them, the big question the Waorani had was, what's wrong with these people? Why are they ashamed of their bodies? Maybe they're deformed. And when the missionaries would go out in the forest to go to the bathroom, the Waorani would sneak behind them to see what's so deformed, what's the big problem, right? They actually have a tiny piece of clothing. It almost doesn't count. It's just a cord that they make with cotton. They cultivate cotton. Cotton is native to here. They tie it around the waist. Men put the foreskin of the penis under the string, have their penis held up while they run through the forest, past all the spines and insects. Might be a good idea, right? Women wear the same string, even though they don't have anything to put under it and they didn't put leaves or anything, unless they're menstruating. Then they put a leaf to catch the blood. Later they give it back to a certain tree in the rainforest that it belongs to. No problem, right? One little parenthesis, we have a program to help women to continue doing that, only a modern way. we distribute menstrual cups. And we have a really low price for the indigenous women. If they don't have money, we accept handicrafts. We gradually sell the handicrafts. All right? You know about these. And
But don't they do it the traditional ways anymore?
no, because now they're wearing clothing. Yeah, yeah, in most of the communities. Yeah. The little bit that they wear is all shared between men and women. The string, big balsa wood earrings and the stretched out earlobes, red face paint with achote. Kim, can you show them achote, please? It's this bush right here, and in English it's called anato, and you know it from cheddar cheese. The orange color in cheddar cheese is this, right? Yes. And are there fruits?
I didn't see any when I came in.
Anyway, it's a capsule. You break it open, and each seed is covered in something almost identical to women's lipstick. Right? So it's excellent for painting designs on the skin and for curing the skin. When there's sunburns, scalds, diaper rash on babies, dry lips, problems inside the mouth.
How long do they leave it on for? If they put it on just till it wears off, or is it?
Yeah, basically, you know, and it's like women's lipstick, so it's a little bit hard to get off, but it does come off if you wash. No, Fritz?
We will show you a different kind of achote during the work, then you can try out the color.
Which other?
The leaves with the orange color.
Oh, yeah, but it's not achote, that's achotillo.
Achote.
Achotillo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, the Waorani women paint a beautiful mask right around the eyes, like we saw the photo. The men get a few spots made with fingers, much faster, right? They also make feathered headdresses, all shared between men and women because men and women are equally valued, right? The Waorani house is very different. They make the house with palm leaves all the way to the ground on all sides, including the two doors. To come or go, you have to push your way through the leaves. It's very dark inside. You can mainly only see with the light from the fire. They build this way because it can be cold at night, with everyone sleeping in hammocks. ¿Qué tal, Vladimir?
Wow! Yupai Chani,
Ya, de nada, es un gusto.
Yupai Chani, siempre.
Muy bien, excelente.
Muy buenos los muchachos, siempre.
Sí,
Saben mucho, me enseñaron mucho de las plantas. Bye
excelente.
bye.
Son nuestros tigres. Tu mochila está aquí arriba, ¿no es
Sí.
cierto? Y ahí puse la tortuga al ladito.
Ah, ya.
Para que no te olvides.
¿Ya?
Ayúdale, Kevin. Yeah. And you can join us if you want. We're explaining in English.
Yes. Okay. I would like to.
He's one of our student interns from the coast of Ecuador. Together with his other friends, there's a total of 10. And he's one of the students with the most English. And so they build the house with leaves all the way to the ground because it can be cold at night, especially since they sleep in hammocks. So the wind can't come in, there's more heat, there's enough smoke to keep mosquitoes out. Also in the same hammock, there's mom, dad, and all of the small children
In one hammock.
in one hammock. And it's not a huge hammock, there's only 2 adults. And this is to conserve more body heat and to expose less skin to the insects. And they often still sleep like that. They like to sleep all together, and even the little kids are experts in not falling out of the hammock. Right? And the house can be about this big, or it can be twice as long. In one house, there can be 5 families. The 5 mothers are sisters. Each house is a club of sisters. Their parents still live there with them, and their brothers have to marry girls in other houses. Right? Each sister has her own husband, although sometimes 2 or 3 share the same husband, who's a good hunter. This is mainly to have fewer men in the house, less fighting. Also, if the man is a strong warrior, he'll sometimes steal women from his enemies in the other clan and have more wives. They would say that the other man is very bad and that they're liberating the women. But despite all that, the normal thing among Waorani is one man with one woman. It's very different from the Shuar.
So if
Yes.
a man steals a wife from another clan, does he bring that wife into the house with all the sisters and the parents? Like he can bring, because it seems like the house is sort of belongs to the woman's family, right?
Yeah, and all the husbands come from somewhere else and live there. Muy bien, un gusto.
Goodbye.
Yeah,
Ciao.
yeah, disfrute.
Bye bye.
Muy
But
bien.
if he steals a wife who's like an external person, he can still bring her into the house.
Oh yeah, yeah, he can still bring her. And the truth be told, they mainly steal little girls, which is a little bit terrible. But they're more portable. They don't bite so hard. They don't kick so hard. And if they're really small, they can forget that they were stolen, and they're not kept as slaves or anything. They integrate with the other kids, and they're playing. And when they come of age, they marry somebody. And the group that's stronger grows faster. They have more women.
So they steal them as a child, then not as a wife, right?
Well,
Like-
it's variable. Sometimes it could be an adult, right? And it is easier to steal women who aren't happy, right? And yeah, and so like I say, it's the normal thing among Waorani is just one man with one woman. It's very different from the Shuar. A hardworking Shuar man can traditionally have up to 15 wives, all in harmony, all in the same house. They're very organized. We can explain how that's possible later. All right? And one big surprise in the Waorani house is that everyone forms one big happy family. They share everything brought to the house. No one has the last word on everything. Most things they do together. The only things that are strictly in the hands of men are the hunting and the warfare. Traditionally, there was a lot of warfare because there were over 4 or 6 different clans of Waorani, each with their own territory, very little contact between the different clans. Mainly there was fighting to defend the territory, to avenge the previous attack, also to steal women. So this is another reason why the house is all enclosed with leaves. This way, when enemies come in the middle of the night, they can't see where the men are and kill them immediately. They also can't come into the house without making any noise because they'd have to rustle the leaves. All right? The spear is also for hunting large animals that run on the ground, like wild pigs, the peccaries, and everything. To hunt animals up in the trees, they make blowguns. This Waorani blowgun is getting very old. It's coming apart. This lets us see how it's made with 2 pieces of palm wood, carved very precisely. There's a groove down the one side and a groove down the other side. They're hermetically sealed with tree resin, wild beeswax, all wrapped in this bark. Now the hole in the middle is polished with vines, sand, and water until it's very smooth inside, like a gun barrel made in the rainforest with material from the rainforest. What they shoot is a fiber from a palm leaf. It's easy to make. On the back there's this ball of kapok cotton from the kapok tree. Do you know about the kapok tree?
No.
Yeah.
It's the biggest tree in the rainforest. In Spanish it's called ceibo. It's like an umbrella over the rest of the forest. And so it's one of the few trees that can rely on wind for dispersing the seeds. That's why it has cotton. Send the seed on the wind. Now the cotton is for sending the dart on somebody's breath, right? And so the cotton plugs the hole. With the hole plugged, they can blow the dart up to 40 meters away with a lot of precision. It doesn't make loud noises that scare the animals. Today I didn't let it go. Didn't want to have to go get it. When they hunt monkeys, they put poison on the tip. That poison is extracted from a plant. It's a liana. Does everyone know that word liana? Right? Ayahuasca is another liana. It just means woody vine. And it's very interesting because these woody vines can be older than the trees they're growing up, which isn't logical, right? But they're very evolved to not die when the tree falls and they get crushed and squeezed and twisted and whatever. It can withstand all that, and then it grows up another tree. So that individual liana can be older than the tree it's on, right? And so curare is the best muscle relaxant known in the world. They still use it in modern hospitals as part of the anesthesia. If they don't use it, they can't move the patient's body around. All the muscles stay rigid, and it can only be extracted from that plant. In the laboratory, they can only purify it, right? So the monkey relaxes. He lets go of the tree, falls to the ground, might stop breathing. Relaxation is a good thing, only up to a point, all right? And it is terrible that they hunt monkeys, but the meat is good, and they're not hunting all the monkeys. They're only hunting the stupider ones, the ones that don't know to get away. Survival of the fittest, all right?
How did they first found out that this plant has this kind of substance in it?
That's a very good question, and I don't know if anyone has the answer, but it comes from living in the rainforest for thousands of years. The Shuar will tell you that a lot of these plants were taught to them by another plant, ayahuasca, right? And especially medicinal plants, but maybe also curare, and just the ayahuasca plant is very, very amazing that they figured out that they could cook it together with other plants and get visions. Europeans would learn that we got a plant that makes you vomit, okay, we can use it to wash people's stomachs, and we don't need to know anything more about that. But the indigenous people here went on to discover how to use it and get visions and everything. And but yeah, thousands of years in the forest collecting all this information, right? For more protein, they have more plants. In particular, there's a palm tree called chambira. They have to look for the new leaf when it looks like a spear. They cut it, take it apart from each leaflet. They get the leaf membrane off the top. It looks like plastic. They have to boil that membrane in water, dry it in the sun. 2 fibers are spun on the naked leg like this and like this, and if you know what you're doing, it comes out just like factory string. And it's got different colors because they boiled it with different plants so that it's pretty, right? In this case, it's already been woven into a fishnet, right? The fishnet is used almost always together with other poisons, other plants that in Spanish are called barbasco. These plants get mashed up, put in the water. Now the fish can't breathe. So they stop swimming, they float to the surface, they're carried by the water to where someone's waiting with the net. It's very practical. It's not so terrible as it sounds, because if the fish gets clean water, it can breathe again, wake up, and swim away. Also, all these plants are decomposing in the water over time. It's not making any permanent damage. And it's no problem eating the fish, because it's so diluted in the river. Then we're going to take the scales off and the guts out. We're going to rinse the fish, cook the fish. But if we drink that plant juice pure, then we can die. That's the main way that people commit suicide in the Amazon. It's not very common, but they know exactly how to do it, right? Here we have a natural cloth. It's made from a tree bark. It's a species of fig tree. In the Quichua language, it's called yanchama. The Waorani call it weyota. The bark gets pounded, washed. Now only these fibers are left, naturally woven by the tree, not woven by people. Other groups like the Sapara people would make their clothing with this. Waorani didn't bother to make clothing. They would use this bark cloth for carrying their babies. A bigger piece that goes all the way around like a shawl, so the baby's very comfortable. Mom has her hands free. Only in the present day, Waorani women make mini skirts with this. For some reason, they don't want to be naked in cultural presentations. I think we can understand. All right?
So this is pretty durable then.
Yeah. A Sapara friend had some boots made with it.
Really?
And I don't know how long the boots lasted, but long enough that I saw them and they were in good shape still.
Where can you get it?
You get it from the tree.
No, but I
And-
mean, like, do they process it so that normal, like, tourists can buy it? Or
Well, yeah, you can buy
Or
it
make it
from the Waorani women. They have their office in Shell on the road toward Baños, but they have their main store in Quito at Intiñan. Have you been there yet? It's a private museum next to the governmental Mitad del Mundo museum, just outside. Anyway, they have their main store there. I think you can definitely get it there if you happen to go to Quito. And yes, and so like I said, the Waorani men can be in a parade in the middle of the city, only with their string, no problem, right? With these carefully selected pieces of wood, they start their fires, right? It's not the hardest wood, it's not the softest wood, it's the one that they know is the best for starting fires. They put kapok cotton on the ground, this thin plank on top. Now they start spinning the stick. One person going as far as he can, the next person starting at the top. Smoke starts to come out. In 20 or 30 minutes, it forms a red coal. A few minutes more, it drills a hole all the way through. The red coal falls into the cotton. They blow it into flame. So it's a lot of work. They keep the fire going day and night. They make new fires, mainly in new houses. The Waorani house is made with other leaves that don't last very long. They didn't want the house for very long because they always had huge territories with over 1,000 hectares, 2,500 acres per person, not per family, right? So in 1 year, they hunt a lot of animals near the house starts to leak water. They feel that it's getting dirty. They get tired of living there, they burn down that house, pick up their things and go walking 1 day or 2 days within their same territory. They build a new house in 2 or 3 days. They use big palm leaves, everyone's working together. It's in a place where there's more animals to hunt and where 6 years before they had planted the peach palm. In Spanish, chontaduro. Maybe you don't know about that yet. Their grandparents may have planted it decades ago. It's a palm tree with fruits that look like peaches, only they're very different. They have to be cooked for over an hour. The food is like a cross between a potato and a peanut. Bright orange because it's full of beta carotene for making vitamin A. The most delicious way to have it is to cook it, chew it, save it for 1, 2, or 3 days. In that time, the enzymes in our saliva convert the starch into sugar. It gets very sweet. We mix in more water. We drink the peach palm beer, one of the most delicious things in the world if it's been chewed nicely, right? And you might be thinking, no, thank you, how disgusting, someone else chewed it, spit it out, we don't want any. But a healthy person only has healthy bacteria in their mouth. Almost all disease would die during the fermentation, and if we're so worried about the bacteria in someone else's mouth, why do people kiss, right? And normally it's mom chewing for dad and the kids, who she also kisses. Where's the problem? In the present day, we would say that it's a big probiotic, right? If you go to a community and you don't accept the chicha, it's a big insult. This is telling them that they're dirty, that they're full of disease, and if it's been chewed nicely, there's no risk. If you want to worry about something, worry about the water they're going to mix in, right before they give it to you. Someone might have flush toilets upstream, right? So you can take boiled water, ask them to mix with that, no problem, all right? 1 year before making the new house, they plant bananas and manioc. So they have all those foods at the new place before they move there. They're not wiping out anything anywhere. Everyone knows that word manioc, yeah? The word in Spanish is yuca. Nothing to do with the English word yucca, right? So, very different from us, each sector of the forest had time to recover. There's still that clan of Waorani who refuses all contact with the outside world. They're called the Taromenani. They live in the southern part of Yasuni National Park. Waorani territory included all of Yasuni National Park and almost the whole area to here in Puyo. Maybe you've heard of Yasuni National Park. It's to the east of here, we can show you on the map. It's the place in the world with the most biodiversity. So much it's hard to understand. In 1 hectare, there can be over 400 different species of trees, only counting the ones bigger than this, right? In Germany, it would be impossible to find a forest that has never been cut down. In the United States, the most diverse natural forest is in California, near the border with Oregon, and there's 20 species in a hectare. In Yasuni, there's 20 times more. There's over 600 species of birds in Yasuni. That's comparable with the whole country of Argentina, the whole continent of Europe, or I think the lower contiguous 48 states in the United States, right? So it's a great World Heritage recognized by UNESCO, a great responsibility for Ecuador to take care of this World Heritage. Nonetheless, they're putting in more and more oil wells in the national park. My personal opinion is that there shouldn't be oil wells in a national park. If it's unavoidable, it would make more sense to just have a small number at one time. And when they want to make a new oil well, no problem. They can wait till one of the old ones finishes. We reforest. The animals that get scared from the new oil well can recolonize the old oil well. If we have oil wells everywhere at the same time, the most sensitive animals and the non-contacted Waorani have nowhere to hide. This would also be one of the best economic investments for Ecuador, by keeping some of the oil in the ground for 30, 40, 50 years when the price is sky high, when the Arabs have finished selling their oil, when our great-grandchildren need the money, right? Only it's really hard for people to think about the long term. In general, everyone wants one big party today, in particular the politicians, in particular the presidents, because they only have 4 years to have the big party and run for re-election, right? We almost had an environmentalist president in Ecuador who was going to take care of Yasuni, he was going to support the Waorani, and he won the election. Only they did voter fraud to him. You know what his name is? Does anyone follow Ecuadorian politics?
I remember this, but I don't remember his name.
His name is Yacu Perez. He was the Indigenous candidate, and he actually won. He came in first in the first round, not third, not ruled out. And I know that because some audios leaked out, and the military knows